What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and of course, with this jersey on, of course, we're going to talk about our first preseason game of the summer, and 1-0 win, comfortable over Perth Glory. Gotta love it. And of course, with all of these preseason friendlies, the main thing to think about is not really the result, or pretty much the one thing we're concerned about is the performances. Are they ready for the season? Are they looking positive? Is our players looking confident, ready to play? So, with that being said, there are a couple that were concerning performances, and then there were a lot of them really, that were really promising. So, first we're going to talk about the formation, first lineup from Sorry, and sorry that I did not talk about the managerial change or anything like that. I do plan to talk about everything that happened in July, at the end of July. Transfers, manager changes, all of that stuff. But with that being said, you want to see what is his first lineup going to look like. The players he puts out, the formation he uses, and he goes with a 4-4-3, or 4-3-3 kind of. There were moments where it felt like it converted to a back three. Sometimes it looked like there were 4 in the midfield, sometimes it looked 5. It really depended on the situation, but the main thing I noticed was a lot of attacking intent from the fullbacks. And I don't know if that's just something that's done a lot in the Italian league, because Conte really brought that over as well, the attacking from the fullbacks, wing backs almost. And now we've got Sarri doing it as well. But we do see it's pretty much they provide the width for the most part. Now, with that being said, there were some moments where it did look a bit disorganized. There were moments where Hudson-Odoi stepped out wide and then Alonso makes the run up, and now they're kind of crowding each other out. There were moments when Pedro steps in and Zappacosta doesn't step up, so there's no width out there. So it did look a bit disorganized at times, but for the most part, it looked very comfortable. Just the 3 in the midfield, I thought they did their jobs very well. The attacking trio of Hudson-Odoi, Morata, and Pedro, they made good runs off of each other. One of those 3, unfortunately, was not making the correct runs for the most part, but it still looked very comfortable for everyone to be moving. And I think that's a big thing, because there have been games in past preseasons where it looked slow, it looked dead, there wasn't enough movement from anyone. So to see that everyone is moving very comfortably, it looks like everyone is fit and healthy, that's good to see. So, first we'll talk, though, about individual performances. Bolka in goal. This is kind of an interesting situation because there's a lot of talk Courtois is going to leave. Now, obviously, rumors are always going to pop up, but this one does feel a bit more tangible because he hasn't signed a new contract. With Hazard, with Willian, people talk all the time about the best players leaving to bigger teams and stuff like that. Everybody wants to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona at some point, so... But with Courtois, he hasn't signed a new contract, so there is a lot of talk about he's most likely going to leave. And so the question becomes, do we look to one of these young keepers that we have? We've got Bolka, we've got Thompson. I can't remember who the third one was. But we've got these young keepers that have been doing fairly well at the youth level, but have hardly gotten a chance at the top tier. So are they ready? I don't know. Caballero is our backup keeper, and honestly, World Cup, he didn't look that good. There were a few games he played last season where he didn't really look that good. And of course, everybody's talking about us going and getting a new keeper. So this is really a chance for these young keepers to step up and prove themselves in the preseason. Unfortunately for Boca today, he didn't have enough to do to really judge his performance. He had to make a few good saves here and there. For the most part, he did well with it. With the ball at his feet, he had a few passes to make. A couple of them were good, a couple of them not so good. So it wasn't really enough to judge his performance. So I'm hoping we get more from him throughout the preseason. Obviously, you don't want to be tested a lot defensively by some of the teams that you play. Like, if Perth Glory is testing our keeper a lot today, there's a problem with our defense. So you don't want him to see a ton of shots, but you do want to see him make some saves. You do want to see him command the back line. And I didn't see a whole lot of that today. So there were some positives and some negatives, but not enough for me to say, yes, he's ready to step into it. Now, as far as our back line is concerned, there's also a lot of talking points here. Are we going to go with a back 4? Are we going to stick with the back 3? he went with the back four today. David Luiz and Ethan Ampadu are the two central defenders. And you kind of have to wonder, is it going to stay like this? Because there are a couple players, Azpilicueta, Moses, Alonso, that when the formation changed, their games also changed and they benefited from it. So are we going to go back to a back four where now Azpilicueta is going to have to go back to being a right back again and Moses is going to have to be a wing again? I don't know. So the fact that he went with a back four today, I don't know if that is because that's what he wants to play or if it's because he doesn't have the players to go with a back three in this game because, they're not ready. They're still coming back from the World Cup. But whatever the case, Ampadu and Luis both did okay. There were definitely some moments where it got a little nervy. The big thing for me, for both of them, though, was solid defensively. There wasn't a lot of crazy moments from either of them. There was one challenge Luis went into, got a yellow for it. It was a little bit wild, but it wasn't anything crazy. And honestly, he didn't really get the guy. He swung, and the guy went down, and the referee, for some reason, was like, oh, well, I saw you swing, and I see him rolling around, so yellow card. But overall, he looked solid defensively. He looked okay. On the ball was where things at times could get a little bit nervy. Luis obviously is the one that's a little bit more wild sometimes when he's on the ball. Ampadu didn't really look extremely comfortable on it. I don't know if that's because, the injury, he's returning from I think it was a knee injury, I believe. And it can always be a little bit uncomfortable when you're returning from a knee injury to sort of get that movement back into your play. So I'm wondering if he's still a little bit uncomfortable from that, but he definitely did not look 100% comfortable with some of his passes and with some of the touches he took. In the air, I thought both of them dominated the box defensively. Ampadu won several headers defensively. Even a couple offensively he had to win to try to keep the ball alive, which is great to see. So both of them working hard. Both of them, I thought, solid games today. David, I don't know. David, whatever his name is, Zappacosta and Marcus Alonso as the fullbacks. Both of them also very solid. Zappacosta definitely needs to work on his crossing because there were some that I felt like should have been better crosses, should have tried to pick somebody out, and instead it looks like he's just kind of dumping the ball in and hoping somebody will get on the end of it. I realize there are some times where that is your best option, just drive it across, hope for a deflection, but there were moments where it felt like there's somebody there, pick them out, and instead he just kind of dumps it in, hopefully. So I was kind of disappointed with that. Some of his passes were a little off. Defensively, though, because he's not really a defensive-minded player, and we know this from last year, I was talking about it all last season, how he's not a defensive player, so he's going to hurt you if you put him out there because he's not going to work back as much defensively. Today, he did. And I don't know if that's just because he was more of a right back instead of a right wing back today, but he definitely did enough work for us defensively, which was good to see. Alonso, obviously the more comfortable of the two. He's played a lot more with the team in the first team, so it makes sense that he would probably be more comfortable at the left back position. He's doing very well getting up and down the line. The only real problem I have with him is just his speed can sometimes get the best of him. He doesn't really have a lot of quick acceleration, so if he goes up against somebody who can go like that, chances are he's going to get beat. But that's about the only thing today that I really noticed from him. In the midfield, you got Jorginho as the kind of the central of the three, and then Fabregas and Barkley were the other two center midfielders. Honestly, great first game from Jorginho. I was a little surprised to see he was the first one off, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense because he is the new one to the team. Still getting a bit integrated, but honestly, it was hard to tell. And they talked about it a little bit on Chelsea TV, the fact that he knows the manager, from Napoli, and it's like, okay, so clearly he's going to come in, he knows his system. And you could definitely tell he was trying to direct play. He was trying to get control of the midfield, quick passes, kept the ball moving, made sure not to let play get too stagnant, did a good job reading things defensively as well. In my opinion, it was a great first game from him. And just imagining him and Conte sitting in with Fabregas kind of being the more attacking option, I don't know. I like that midfield. I feel like that's a strong midfield and very good on both sides of the ball as well. It's not just, we've got Conte, so we've got everything going for us defensively, or, we've got Fabregas, so we've got a great attacking play. we've got a little bit of both in Jorginho, and I love to have that. I love to have a player that's not only good defensively, but also can move the ball as well, because that's pretty rare. Most players, you only notice one side of the game from them, but it seems like he's got a little bit of both, and I loved watching him work today. So great first game from him. Fabregas, definitely you could see, similar to most of last season for him, honestly, the play is a little bit slow. And that is honestly the only thing that's hurting him right now. It's just the fact that because he's getting older, he's not moving as quickly. And so if somebody's putting hard pressure on him, there are times when he's clever enough to kind of get away from the pressure if they go flying in. But a smart defender is just going to stand him up. They know he's not going to get anywhere. So if he has no options, they're either going to force him backwards or they're going to poke the ball off of him. So he's got to find a way to work around that. The fact that he doesn't have as much speed as everyone will find a way to get the ball out of your feet quicker and move it out wide or find a quicker pass because he's clever enough to do it. And there were times today where we saw the cleverness that he has, but there are still moments where you can see he's a little bit slower and it hurts him. So, and then Barkley, in all honesty, his first half, not much from him. I was like, okay, he's working hard, but I'm not really seeing why we need somebody like him. Why did we go get him? Second half, he stepped it up, though. And aside from the finishing, honestly, he looks much more comfortable in that attacking role more than a center midfield role. So I feel like that's probably going to be where he's utilized more is if we are going to go with a front three, one of those front three. Now, is he going to upseat somebody like Pedro or Willian or Hazard if he stays? Probably not. But he's a good option to have if one of them are hurt or if they need a sub or if they need just something a little different. Somebody who's going to sort of bulldoze through because he does have some strength on him and he can run through people when he gets going. But he definitely seems a lot more comfortable in the attacking option than he does sitting back in the midfield. And then we've got going up into the front three, Hudson-Odoi, Morata, Pedro. Now, obviously, one of these three just didn't belong today. So let's talk about him last. First of all, Hudson-Odoi, great game from him. And I was really sad that he was one of the first ones out, but at the same time, I can kind of understand, he's a bit younger, so he probably is going to be one of the first ones off along with Ampadu. But man, I was really impressed with him. I felt like watching him today, he was really trying as much as he could. He was looking confident on the ball. He was taking on defenders. He was looking to find clever passes. Just doing so much on the ball and off the ball as well. He's working hard to try to put pressure on players from the other team. It's huge. And it's not something you always expect to see from an attacking player, which is one of the reasons why I think Pedro has still been useful to us because he does that. So the fact that Hudson-Odoi is doing that and he's younger and he's really tearing it up today, in my opinion, this is a strong case for him to be involved heavily this upcoming year. And obviously, you still have to take into account the fact that, okay, it's Perth Glory. Is he going to be able to do this against Premier League quality teams? Maybe not as effectively, but I feel like the more he works at it, the harder he starts to work. I feel like he can really do some damage in the Premier League. And you give him not just the time, but also the experience as well. I feel like he could really step up and be one of the best players in the Premier League, given the time. So, in my opinion, it was a strong case for him to play somewhat this season, play a good part instead of just being either a loaned out player or, the reserve squad, which is good to see because you want your young players to step up in preseason and say to the new coach, hey, look at me, I can step into this position. And then Pedro on the other side worked very hard most of the game, got a good goal. Sometimes his finishing quality was not there, which has kind of been the story of his past couple seasons. He worked very hard. You see a lot of the time some of the stuff he can do on the ball is very, very good. But then there are times when it feels like you should score there or you should find that final pass through, and he can't. And I don't know why that is, but it just feels like it happens to Pedro more than other players. So, but it was a good goal, and in my opinion, he did work hard enough for me to say, okay, he deserves to be playing this year because he's definitely putting forth the effort, and he's got enough quality to do so as well. And then we get to Morata. And this is where, you had all last season to kind of get equated to what the Premier League is going to bring. It's a different style of play than La Liga. You expect there to be a little bit of a learning curve. but there wasn't. And it really showed today. I mean, the lack of effort. How many times was he called off sides? How many runs did he make that were not the right run? You need to make a run cutting in behind, and instead he's making a run away from the ball, or he's dropping back in receiving, laying it off, and then his turn and go is so slow. We need him to be breaking into the box, and he's kind of jogging in a little bit. Just not enough. And when you're a striker that wants to be the starting striker, and you're going up against two players in Batshuayi and Giroud, who both of them are not known for their finishing quality, but both of them are known for their hard work and their determination and their willingness to put pressure on the defense. And what are you doing? You're just kind of jogging around. That's frustrating. And it's frustrating because you should want to do more. You should want to work harder. You should want to play better. And he's not. It seems like there's a lack of desire there. And it's hard to coach. It's hard to coach someone who lacks the desire to go out and work hard. And it's what it feels like he has. So, I don't know. I mean, he's still got a lot of preseason to prove me wrong, but right now it's looking like he's going to be third, maybe even fourth option if Tammy Abraham can start to put together, some finishing quality. Because even he was working harder than Murata today with the time he got. So, Murata is very, very close to being on the very outskirts of the club. And that's not a good feeling to have about a player with so much skill and quality. So then we look at the subs that came on, starting from the defense, because I can't remember who came on when and all of that stuff. But the fullbacks, Ola Aina and Emerson, came on at the fullback position. Emerson came on with a lot more time than Aina did, and in my opinion, didn't really take advantage of it. Defensively, he looked weak. He looked a bit slower. Kind of dove into a couple challenges. In the attacking third, looked pretty clever, but didn't really have that final ball that Alonso can provide. The cross in that's dangerous and actually finishes off a play instead of you beat a player and then you get it stripped. That was the difference there. So while I did say Alonso, there were times where it felt like he wasn't really getting that last little bit of play. You really did feel like he was at least getting a cross in or something. He was providing something at the end of something or some sort of play. Yeah, providing something at the end of something. That's great wordage there. But it felt like he was actually producing something at the end of the play. Whereas Emerson, it felt like he would produce a bit of skill, but then lose the ball. And there was no finishing cross or pass back or keeping possession. So there definitely was a difference in quality when Emerson came on the left side. And that is disappointing because he is a good little player. He's a lot of hard work, a lot of effort and determination. But the quality, it just feels like he dropped off from what I saw last season. And that's disappointing. And then you got Ola Aina, who's young, worked hard. I liked what I saw from him. I liked what I saw from him last season as well. So he's definitely an option if we need, if Zappacosta and Moses are both out and we're looking for a wing back. I feel like Ola Aina can fill that role. I think he's got enough quality to fill the role, which is good to see. In the midfield, you've got Pasalic came in. Who else? Who's the other midfielder? Bakayoko, that's right. Nearly forgot about him. But both of them I thought came on and were solid enough. Pasalic is a player who's he's a player that has been talked about but keeps getting loaned out to all of these good teams. Milan, I think Sparta Moscow last year. I mean, he's getting loaned out to these Champions League / Europa League sides with a lot of quality, but he's never really been talked about making it into the first team. And from what I saw today, I can kind of see why. I mean, he's clever on the ball. He moves it around very well. But you can see there's a little bit of a lack of speed and strength that in the Premier League isn't going to cut it. So I'm wondering if that's going to hinder his progress. The fact that he's a bit smaller, it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to, with some of these Premier League teams just running at you and willing to bulldoze you over, is he going to be able to make it? And it's something that I think even Marco van Ginkel, who's a very skilled young player, it's something that has kind of hindered his progress in the Premier League as well, because he was never really able to cut it when it came to being bullied out of a challenge. Now, Bakayoko, on the other hand, doesn't have that problem. His problem is more just the quality on the ball, the quickness of his play. There are times when it feels like he just doesn't have the attacking side of it. Defensively, I've seen him work hard. I can see he can do the defensive side of the work. He's big and strong. He's fast. He can definitely defend well when he puts his mind to it. Now, last year there were some kind of mental lapses in some of the games where he just really dropped off, and it was like, what happened to him? Today, he definitely seemed a bit smarter defensively. But on the ball, there's still moments where that last pass or that, it feels like all you have to do is make a pass from here to there, and it's too soft, or it's not hard enough. Too soft, not hard enough. I'm a little tired, okay? So if I'm repeating myself, that's why. Anyway, so beyond that, though, we get into the front three. Oh, wait, forgot to talk about Thomas Collis in the middle of defense. Yeah, returned to the club after a long loan at Fulham, and in my opinion, did okay. Didn't really see a whole lot from him. I thought there were moments where he could have stepped up a bit more, I think, on corners. He's tall enough to win headers, but it didn't really feel like he was ever putting in a strong challenge, and that's something that Ampadu has over him. However, I thought defensively, it seemed like he was putting himself in pretty good positions, cutting off passes. I don't see him starting this year, though. I don't see him really making it into the team because we have enough quality, with Christensen, Cahill, Rudiger, Azpilicueta even can drop into a center back position. I feel like he's kind of just behind Ampadu. He's good, but not quite good enough to make it into the second string. So, a little disappointing for him, but I see more quality in players like Ampadu and David Luiz than I do Collis, and that's saying a lot. So, but then we get into the front three. First of all, Tammy Abraham came in pretty early for Murata and looked pretty good. The finishing quality wasn't there, which is something I'm saying about a lot of these players. It did finish 1-0 after all. But I thought he worked very hard. He definitely was trying to get on the end of runs. He's holding the ball up pretty well, taking it on his chest on that one and turning and hitting a shot. Decent shot, too. I thought he looked good. And once again, it's not really... For him, there's not really much he can do wrong when he goes out there because he's a young player. Yes, he was on loan at a Premier League side last year and didn't really do a whole lot. But you kind of feel like, okay, he's still very, very young and has a lot of time to grow. He's already just really tall, not big. So that is something that's going to hinder him a little bit. But he's very tall. He works very hard to win the ball. So all he had to do today was just go out and work hard. And he did. And what that does, it doesn't really up his stock any because we've already known that he's got enough quality to be a good backup. Whether he can make it into that top quality striker role, that's yet to be seen. What it does, though, it really does push Murata. You have to get better now. Because even the young kid who's really third string at this point, you're fourth string now because he's third string. So it really does kind of have to hopefully push Murata to get better, or else he's really going to be on the verge of it. But I'm glad Abraham went out there and worked hard because I did want to see him do well, and I thought he did. I thought he worked hard enough to at least earn a couple playing moments here and there. I feel like he's either going to go out on loan or end up in the youth squad, but I was impressed with him, and I think he's a striker that has a lot of potential as long as he continues to work hard and improve, I guess, the technical side of his game, because he's not really going to bully a lot of defenders. He's probably going to win a couple challenges in the air, more than a couple, because he's so tall. So the big thing for him is, can he be clever enough to use his tall body to win the ball and then keep it away from the defenders and either find a pass or have a good strike? That's yet to be seen, but I was impressed with him today. And then the final two subs that came on were Lucas Paisan and Charlie Musonda. Paisan is a player that has kind of been just on the outskirts of Chelsea for a while, and I feel like it's almost like we can't sell him, so we just keep loaning him out year after year. But yeah, today just didn't really see a whole lot from him. He had a chance to really show I can score, I can finish. I think it was Pedro set him up perfectly, laid it back, or no, I think it was Barkley actually, I mean, it was a perfect setup. All he had to do was just place it in the corner, right at the keeper. And aside from that, just didn't really see a whole lot out of him. Passes, a couple of them were just straight up giveaways. So I don't know. I wasn't really impressed with them. Musonda is a player who already has kind of made his way into the first team a little bit last year. Had some good moments in the league itself, and some good cup appearances as well. So he's already a player that we know about. He's a player that a lot of Chelsea fans have been begging to see more of. And so the confidence should be extremely high from him. And it felt like he kind of came out and was a little bit reserved today. I thought, now there are moments where it feels like, okay, don't be stupid and try to take on 3 defenders. But there were also moments where it felt like he was one-on-one. And like we saw from Hudson-Odoi to set up the first goal, do something clever. Try to take him on. Try to see what you can do because you've got the ability to. But it felt like even in those moments, he was still being reserved. He was still trying to just, move the ball around. Now, if that's instructions from the coach, great, you're getting on his good side. But if he's saying go out there and play, I'm wondering why he wasn't more confident today, why he didn't really go out and try to take the game by the scruff of the neck, because he's got the ability to, in my opinion. But I feel like I wanted to see more from him today. So it wasn't really a disappointing performance, but with the quality he has, I feel like he might be a bit disappointed with what he showed with the time that he did have. So, but anyway, I realized I was a little bit all over the place with some of the stuff. I am tired, and on top of that, I mean, it's a lot to go through. It's a lot to talk about, and a lot of different players to deal with as well. So that kind of will be most of the preseason. I think if you guys have watched my past preseason reviews, you'll know that's kind of how it is, just because of how hectic some of the preseason games can be. So I'm hoping, it was clarified enough for everyone. If there's anything you want to talk about specifically that I didn't talk about, let me know in the comment section. I'd love to talk more about the game because it was a promising first game. There was a lot of good things to talk about. And on top of that, we still have a lot of the first team squad who is out, that's still, recovering from the World Cup. So the fact that we've seen such a good performance today from a lot of second string players and a couple third string as well is a very promising start to the season, because it gives the manager something to think about. It gives them a lot of different options he can choose from. And whenever the first team does eventually come back into it and they start getting back into the swing of things, how many of these second, third string players start to up their rank a little bit and really start getting into the first team as well? That's one of the exciting things about the preseason, is getting to see players that we don't get to see a whole lot of. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game? What players do you want to see more of? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.